Yo, what is going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down my favorite places to buy sports cards and how you can get a lot better deals than maybe some traditional methods that you guys currently use. Before we get into that, I did want to say, as you guys know, we've opened up our membership program to new members. Our members have been doing extremely well over the last couple years. If you guys know, Shea Gilgis has been our main investment over the last 5 years since 2020. Most of our members have been able to get in on a lot of Shea's important cards that have, of course, gone up quite a lot over the last 5 years, along with many other investments that our members have been able to make to consistently make money in the sports card market, both with long-term, mid-term, and long-term investments, and short-term, long-term, and mid-term investments. But without further ado, let's hop right into this video. All right, guys. So I know a lot of people traditionally head to marketplaces like eBay to purchase their sports cards. Real quick, before we get into the why, I want to break down the why of this video, which is pretty much there's a lot of money that you could be saving buying off of eBay. Sellers are going to be netting around 88% of the sold price on eBay. So sellers are going to be asking a little bit higher on eBay, and a lot of that premium gets baked into the buyer. So if you're buying off eBay, you're going to be able to save that fee and essentially be able to buy for a little bit less because the seller's netting a little bit more on other platforms. So that leads me into the first platform that I'm going to be briefly going over, which is MySlabs. MySlabs is a platform where it's only a couple percent fees. I believe right now they raised it to like 2% fees for the seller. Plus you have a couple percent of PayPal fees. But for example, if a seller were to accept a $1,000 offer on MySlabs, they're going to be netting around $950. If a seller accepts a $1,000 offer on eBay, they're going to be netting around $880. So a seller is going to be willing to work with you more on MySlabs, and you're going to be able to get a better price if you are buying on MySlabs as opposed to eBay, because the seller is more willing to work with you because they pay less fees. So that really helps out buyers and helps them with the leverage. There's a lot of people on eBay, who obviously want to go off of eBay and make the deal because they are saving on fees. Of course, that's not the most ethical way to do it. The most ethical way to do it would be to look for the same card on other platforms and try to get a better price on it. Like a common card, for example, like a Victor Wembanyama Prism PSA 10. This card, every time it sells on MySlabs, it sells for about 5 to 10% less than it does on eBay. And that is just because sellers are willing to take less because they are going to be netting the same price as they would be netting if they sold the same card for less on eBay. So if they sold this card for $100 on MySlabs, that is equivalent to selling the card for $110 on eBay because you will net around the same price, for a seller. So that is why MySlabs can be a great platform. I don't recommend it for all cards, but I really like it for like the low to mid-end cards. I think you can make a lot, better, smarter decisions and get into cards a little bit less if you're buying them on MySlabs as opposed to eBay. A couple other platforms that I do like occasionally to buy cards on is Alt. Of course, Alt's got a good selection of cards. What I do like is they're, super easy to use in terms of vaulting. They do have fees that eat in a little bit, but overall you can get some good prices on Alt. It just really depends. I do really like their auction feature quite a bit. I think if you go to their auction feature and if you scroll down a lot, you can usually find a lot of good deals. A lot of their main auctions, they don't get as many eyes as the golden auctions or an eBay auctions or even Fanatics, I would say. So if you go and scroll a lot and you're looking for like that low to mid-end card, you can get it for oftentimes very, very solid prices. Not many people are going to the scraps of an alt auction and trying to find those cards. As you guys can see, there are over 2,000 items in this auction, and I don't even know how many bidders they have in these auctions, but it's clearly, I feel like there's more supply than demand on alt. and you don't really see that on other platforms as much as you do on alt. I think there being more supply than demand on alt. Like, I don't know if there are over 2,000 buyers looking at these auctions, to be frank. So it could be very, very, I think it could be a good place to look if you're looking for specific cards. For a card like this, for example, or maybe not a Kaboom, we'll pick a different example. We'll pick a little bit more of an underground player who we'll try to find, or an underground card. But for a card like this, like a James Cook out of 6, I don't know how many bidders would ever be interested in this card on an alt auction based off, they have 3 watchers on this card. There are only 153 people who have ever even scrolled by this card. So you're going to be, you're not competing with many people when you're buying this card. If this same auction was on eBay, I bet it would have at least 30 watchers. And that just goes to show that you can get great deals by kind of going for those underground, under the radar, auctions, on alt and, lots. I think you could find very good deals on alt. If you just scroll to the bottom of the auctions, like a lot of cards like these, you either have to see that card, you either have to be scrolling a lot like I am right now, or yet to somehow be searching up for James Cook on an alt auction. And I just don't see many people who are buying James Cook cards who are on alt trying to buy James Cook cards, because eBay is full of collectors mainly. Alt is more so investors, people who are more into sports cards from the investment side and the money side. And those guys are looking for only stars. Most, investors and guys who are on alt trying to make money with these auctions, they're not looking for guys like Christian Watson or James Cook. They're looking more for, the all-time greats like Kobe, Curry, LeBron, those type of guys, and underground, young investments, guys like JJ McCarthy. Like, this is the ideal audience for alt. So if you're going for more underground players, you can find some really good deals, and a lot of cards that have sold on alt that have sold, very soon after on eBay for a significant amount more than they did on alt. So I think it's a great place to be looking to buy those underground players who are at the bottom of, these auctions. Like Earl Campbell, this card's probably going to be seen a couple hundred times throughout the auction. I don't know how many buyers there will be for a card like this, but you can get some great deals. So without further ado, we'll hop right into kind of like the next couple places that I look. I look at Fanatics Collect. I think their auction's a good kind of spot to get certain cards. I like it. I kind of use it in a similar way that I use alt. I think looking for those underground players that you can find, like a Mike Bibby card. If this card gets posted on eBay, you're probably gonna have a lot more collectors looking at it than on Fanatics Collect. It's more so still investors and more so investors than collectors on Fanatics Collect. So I would definitely suggest looking for those underground players on these other platforms before looking on eBay, because you're gonna, especially on auctions, I really like when there's an underground player, who's on the 400th page of an auction. That is just a card that's screaming that it's going to sell for less than it would on eBay. So if you go, to the 300th page, there's just so many cards, so many gems in these auctions that don't really get any views. So you can do really well by kind of being able to buy those, put them up on eBay, get them out to shows, and make your percentage. So I do definitely really like that. I'm not going to go specifically on Facebook or Instagram, but I do believe that Facebook and Instagram are my favorite ways to be buying sports cards. You can avoid all these fees on all these platforms, and you don't have to rely on, platforms and whatever it is. You can deal with sellers directly, and sellers are much more willing to work when it's off of these platforms. When it's off of eBay, a seller can give you a 12% discount and still net the same amount that they would. So a seller is going to be super motivated off platform to sell a card on Facebook, Instagram. So if you're on a social platform, even whatnot, you can really build up a core audience. And, I just suggest searching up sports cards and following every single account on Instagram, going through their stories. You're going to see so many gems on the story sales that a lot of people host, including myself. And you can, be able to work with those sellers directly. You don't have to mark it as a comp. That is one thing I love when buying offline, is it doesn't get marked as a comp. So when I buy this card on Instagram for $90, nobody knows I pay $90. If I'm trying to make my profit, even if the player goes up, I don't have that $90 price point that the next buyer is going to see. So it's just no influence in terms of like other buyers who are going to buy your card seeing what you paid for it, which really kind of hurts that upside. And a lot of people want to be buying for under comps, or it's just very hard for people to pay over comps. So when you're buying on Instagram or Facebook groups, um, obviously do your due diligence. Make sure the guy has proper vouchers. You can pay PayPal goods and services. Do those precautions. I'm not going to go into that too much in this video since it's not what this video is about, but Instagram, Facebook are my two favorite places. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like. We are on our road to 60,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to make these videos and watching them. And I hope you all enjoy this video. If you would like to join the membership program, the link is down below. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.